throughout the years that I have been married, there have been things in my life that have had a hold over me and over my marriage that have kept us from really pursuing and experiencing the marriage that God really did design and intend for us to have. And there were strongholds and sin in my life that really did just create walls that prevented intimacy, that prevented vulnerability, that prevented connection. And one of the ways that I found to break free over those things was through the power of fasting. So the fasting is referenced in the Bible as giving up something. So oftentimes it's food or water in the Bible, where you're giving up something and you're in the natural to pursue God in the supernatural. And so I had done this a few different times with my church, and it is what gave me the idea to kind of test this theory and try it out in different areas of my marriage and in my life that had a hold over me. So 3 areas that I chose to fast that I have seen breakthrough in are, one of them was fasting makeup. So for me, my vanity, my self-worth, my body image, my identity, a lot of it was held back and was rooted in makeup and in just this world. And so I didn't feel comfortable in my skin, and I was spent so much time and energy thinking about how I looked and thinking about my skin, and then obsessing over products, and then obsessing over, clothes and makeup, and then getting dressed or getting ready every day, and then not feeling good, not feeling at peace, not feeling like just comfortable in who I was. And I recognized that had a hold over me. And it was all of the time and energy and resources and money that went into myself, was taking away from energy and time and resources that could be spent like pursuing my marriage and pursuing relationship with my kids and pursuing peace. And that's what I really wanted, was internal peace. And so I was going to look at and address an area that kept me from that. So I decided to fast makeup. And so what that meant was, for 21 days, I did not wear any makeup. I didn't wear mascara, eyeliner, foundation, nothing. And the very first time I ever did that, man, those first few weeks were rough. And I realized how much of a hold it had over my identity, over my worth, over my peace. And I recognized that was a problem. And that was affecting how I showed up in my marriage. And it was affecting just my own sense of peace and openness and vulnerability, because I didn't have that. So I fasted it for 21 days, and I realized that it had absolutely broken a hold over me. Now, a lot of the times healing comes in layers. And so we can fast something one time and it can start to break down strongholds. But when strongholds are very deeply rooted, it doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes it doesn't happen just in one go. So I have fasted makeup at least 3 or 4 times over the last 3 or 4 years. And each time I did it, it got easier and easier. And each time I ended the fast, I saw that for the rest of the year afterwards, that I wore it less. It had less of effect on me. I felt prettier. I felt better, because I wasn't allowing it to have a hold over my soul and my spirit. Another area that I fasted was social media. This one has been so hard. I absolutely feel this one. When I am on social media, it affects my own sense of peace. It affects my consumerism. It affects my materialism. It affects my vanity. It affects my finances. I mean, it affects my time. it is so easy to get on social media and start scrolling and start comparing and then start buying and start shopping and start researching, and then hours can go by and hours can come out of your day. And then I just felt this just horrible feeling every time, like just this hole that could not be filled, and it could not be, I couldn't get rid of it. And I was just like, man, this is not what I want. And I don't want my kids to see me on my phone all the time. And I don't want to be buying stuff that I don't need. Like, I want a simpler, slower, more peaceful life. I don't want one that's filled with consumerism and materialism and clutter and stuff that just makes that hole grow deeper and deeper and deeper. So I have done the same thing where I first started with 21 days of not doing any media. So that meant no social media, no TV, no movies, just choosing instead to pursue God, to spend more time reading my Bible. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, I have a lot of time. And I noticed every single time that I tried to reach for my phone, and I was like, oh, no, like not doing that. I'm like, wow, well, what am I going to do instead, And so that really started to change my relationship with my husband and with my kids. And it started to change my family atmosphere. And it's something that I have done multiple times over the years. I have done it for 21 days. I have done it for months at a time. I have done it with my family. We have done it together where even the kids weren't watching TV for 21 days. And it's just something that every single time it has broken down that stronghold that it has over me, to the point where now it's like I'm rarely ever on social media. If I do, my tolerance for it is so low. I'm like, I can be on it just for a few minutes and be like, oh, I can't even, like, I just immediately am convicted and have that sense of like, this is not good for me. This is not good for my marriage. This is not good for my kids. And so it is something that's like, I have noticed that over the years that hold has just been lifted and lifted and lifted. And that's what God gives us, is he gives us freedom. He does not want us to be a slave to this world. He doesn't want those things to distract us or become idols in our life. And every time we allow these strongholds to build up in our life, it affects everything, whether we know it or not. Sometimes it takes months or years for us to realize how it has slowly like sunk in, and the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and he doesn't do it right away. It is a slow and silent death that he just little by little by little, it erodes away. And so sometimes that's why it takes us so long for us to realize that, wow, our peace is eroding away, and our identity and our identity in Christ and our faith is eroding away, and our marriage is eroding away, and our family connection and life is eroding away. And so we have to take that time to really set up those boundaries and also allow God to come in and work in the supernatural. And so that's the power of fasting, is being able to give up something in the physical, to pursue God in the supernatural, and through prayer and through faith and through his power, he comes in and he starts to release us and break down strongholds and break down footholds that the devil has in our life. And so instead of like me just striving and trying and be like, oh, I'll do better, and oh, I'll just check it for a little bit. It's saying like, God, no, I'm going to lay this at the cross. I'm going to lay it at the feet of Jesus, and I'm going to give it to you. And you are going to come in and you are going to do a work in my life. There is going to be healing. There is going to be transformation, and is going to be through the power of the Holy Spirit, because he's coming in and doing what only he can do, that I cannot do on my own, that I do not have the strength or the willpower to do. And every time he comes in and he fights those battles and he releases us, it builds up our character, it builds up our endurance, and it builds up our faith. And we see the faithfulness of God and we see his power at work in our life. And it become a witness, and it becomes a testimony for the things that God is releasing us from, and saying, look, I invited God into this and he set me free. And now I get to go and I get to proclaim that to other people, and I get to proclaim that to other marriages, to say, on your own you might not be able to do it. And I get it that there are going to be strongholds in your marriage that are keeping you from vulnerability, keeping you from intimacy, keeping you from trust. And on your own you might not have any power over it, which is why we invite God into it. We invite his power and his healing to do what only he can do. And for me, the third area of where God really moved and changed was alcohol. Alcohol absolutely had a hold over our marriage. It was not serving me. It was not serving my husband. It was not serving our marriage at all. It was causing a lot of pain and a lot of grief and a lot of conflict and problems. And so that's another area that I chose to fast. And I have seen God heal, and I have seen God transform, and I have seen God set us free, and it absolutely changed our marriage. And so that's what builds up this faith in him, to know that when we invite him in, we invite him into our brokenness, we invite him into our battles, and we say, God, I'm going to give this to you because I can't do this on my own, but I can give it to you. And we get to see him move in our life. We get to see him heal our marriage. We get to see him transform our life, to see this is what I was on my own, in my darkness, in my sin. And then God came and he healed and he transformed. And now my life looks like this. And now my marriage looks like this. And there is so much power in inviting God into those things. So if that's you, if you find yourself in that, try and fast it. Try and lay it down at the feet of Jesus and say, God, I'm going to give this to you so that you can do only what you can do. And man, you get to see a miracle. You get to see healing. You get to see transformation. And God is faithful. He will absolutely show up, and it might not happen in one moment. It might not happen in 1 year. It might not happen in 2 years, but God shows up and he changes our mind and he changes our heart, and he helps us break down those strongholds that are holding us back from the marriage that he wants and intends for us to have.